He's facing Tech this weekend. He's a friend of the show, and he joins us on the Loud Security Systems Newsmaker line. He is Bill O'Brien, head coach over at Boston College. Now, Bill, I'm going to ask you how your day is going. I'm not going to ask you if you're up or down. I don't want to get yelled at this afternoon.
Oh, man. That wasn't yelling. That was not yelling. That's my normal. No. My day's going well. We just had a good practice, and it's not the record anybody wants here, but our guys show up every day and they give us everything, and I enjoy being around the guys. So the day's going well.
So you look at this team this year. Maybe it's hard to pinpoint what's gone wrong, but if you had to pick like one thing, what's been the biggest challenge for your team this year?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, we look, again, you never want to use injuries as an excuse. And so I'll just tell you that in certain, especially on defense, it's been a fact, right? We're playing, I think, 25 freshmen. Guys that are true freshmen, not redshirt. They just got here in January or June. Some of them got here in June. So, they're learning on the run. I think that offensively, we've really struggled to run the football at times. At times when we've been able to run the football, that's, it's been okay. But last year we were able to run the football, and this year not so much. So, I take responsibility for all of it. But, again, we're going to show up and play hard on Saturday.
Hey, Bill, by the way, good to talk to you, and we'll ask some of the other stuff coming up with your relationship with Brent. But I do want to ask, this version of you, and I don't know how old you are. I can do the math on it, but whatever, it doesn't matter. This version of you in a tough season, what's your maturity? Like, what's your evolution in terms of being able to handle what maybe you wouldn't have handled quite as well as a young head coach?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I'm 56, and I've been doing this for 33 years. And, I've had a lot of great seasons, mostly winning seasons, whether it was as an assistant or as a head coach. Haven't had too many seasons like this. But I think, based on my family, my wife, Colleen, my oldest son, Jack, what he goes through every day, that gives me great perspective. I really love these kids that I'm coaching at BC. They're, I haven't been around a lot of teams like this, but the teams that I have been that haven't been winning, whether it's pro football or college football, they checked out. They check out. This team has never checked out. They show up every single day. They play their asses off. They give us everything they've got, and I think that's one of the main things that keeps me up and teaching and trying to get them better. And I just really enjoy being around the kids.
Bill O'Brien with us, Boston College head coach on the Loud Security Systems Newsmaker line. Is it true that you were the GA that showed Brent Key around when he came to visit campus at Tech?
I heard him tell that story. Now his mom is awesome, right? So I remember being around his mom quite a bit. I might be the one that picked him up. That's a long time ago, but I'm sure I was definitely involved in driving him, because that back then, you guys know there were only two GAs, right? So it was me, and you guys remember Mitch Jordan, who's a great high school coach down there now, or was. I think he's an athletic director now. But Mitch was a linebacker at Georgia Tech. He and I are best friends. He was in my wedding. We were the two GAs. I was on offense. He was on defense. And so we did all the work with Billy Sheeter. Doug Marone was the director of operations that year. It was a who's who on that staff. Eventually it was Ralph Friedgen, Randy Edsel. There was some great staff there. But, yeah, as a GA, we did all the grunt work, and I'm sure I drove, no doubt about it.
What do you think this many years later when we realized? We found out just a few years ago putting cream cheese on a bagel. Whoa, that's excessive. And now, my line is, you can bring $1 million into Times Square, bring a kid in and hand it to him right there in the middle of it, and there's really not a problem. You talk about giving a kid a ride. There were circumstances where giving a kid a ride could actually break a rule, right?
Yeah, and it's exactly right. It's how fast it changed, and, to be honest with you, be a little careful here, but the NCAA didn't really see it. Maybe they saw it coming, didn't do a whole lot about it. And so now it's here, right? And it's happened very fast. And, each school has their own philosophy and their own direction of how they want to handle it. And, it's led to it's just an uneven landscape. And, it's tough. It's tough. But, these kids, they deserve to be compensated to a degree. But, at the end of the day, you guys both know that, those things, came into play because of guys that were faces of the program, like Herschel Walker or Joe Hamilton or, George Gotze back in the day. Like that, those were the guys that maybe should have been compensated. But now every kid on the team can be compensated, and that's it's a little bit crazy, but that's the way it is.
How do you build loyalty then? Look, everybody's got to decide where they want to go, and they've given them an outlet, the transfer portal, whether it's right the way they've done it, whether it's too freewheeling the way they've done it. How do you build up loyalty in today's day and age?
I think look, I still think it comes down to relationships. I think it's difficult, though, Chris. I think that these kids, they have to do what's best for themselves. I mean, and they have an opportunity, some of them, a lot of them, to make a decent amount of money. But you still have to establish a relationship and become, somewhat of a mentor, an important person in their lives that they know, like, hey, this guy really cares about me. This guy knows my story. He knows my family. He knows everything about me. And I think the connection helps the loyalty. If you don't connect with the kids, you got no shot. And so, I think that's what we try to do here. Plus, this is a great school here at Boston College. So, kids, they want the degree here. They want to be here. They want to get the degree. And but again, loyalty is definitely a factor in all of this.
Bill O'Brien with us on the Loud Security Systems Newsmaker line. And we talked to Kirby a few weeks ago about this. You know this. I mean, he came in, he said, as a freshman, even his entire Georgia career, all he had to worry about was playing football. There was no social media. And a lot of these kids are making big-time money, and they have to support their families. They're the breadwinners all of a sudden. So I guess you have to be even more aware nowadays as a head coach to all of those factors.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I think that's a great point. I've said that quite a bit, that, like when we were playing, when Kirby was playing, when Brent was playing, those, you can remember those games between Georgia and Georgia Tech. That's when it was pure football. It was clean old fashioned hate, and really there were no cell phones with cameras and Twitter and TikTok and all these different things that these guys deal with now. And so I think at the end of the day, you still have to talk to these guys about what's important. But the point that you made, Nick, about a lot of these guys being breadwinners for their families is a very important point. I mean, they're a lot of these guys are, making it, like I said, a good chunk of money, and they want what's best for them for as long as they can get it. Which football doesn't last forever, so they're trying to get as much as they can. I
don't think it's the biggest problem at BC, but I'm sure it happens to you. When people come in, instead of shaking your hand, they have their palm up, which is the universal sign for how much and what are you going to put in my hand. I mean, that's the part that I can't fathom. I think you're supposed to be a handshaker first. It used to be the uncle. Remember the stories we used to hear? It used to be the uncle. The uncle wants a car. Yep. Somebody needs a job. Now there's sort of this.
That's always a funny visual to me. Uncle Bob wants a Cadillac.
No, but that was you guys know, when Marone, I remember Doug and I used to talk about this all the time when we were recruiting and coaching for George. That was how you did it. Could you get the dad a job at Coca-Cola? Could you help him,
get a mortgage?
Yeah. Now it's different. Now here, I will say this. I don't really deal with that a whole lot. Where we're recruiting a guy, and again, it hasn't added up to winning yet here this year. Last year we won, this year not winning, but we got a lot of good young players. They do care about the education. Mm-hmm. Not many of my guys come in there palms up. And even the guys that do, they do it in a way where they're like, hey, coach, here's what I'm thinking. The issue to me is the agents. What happens is now in the National Football League, an agent has to be a certified agent to represent a player. You know what I'm saying? Well, in college football, anybody can be your agent. So, that's the one thing that we have to figure out, how to get the agent deal under control. Because some of these kids, you'll deal with a kid who, hey, he might have two agents. He doesn't even know. Well, this guy said he's representing me. Well, this guy's representing me too. Wait a minute now. You got two agents. Do you even know that? You're dealing with, I think the agent issue is something that has to be addressed at some point.
Tell me what it was like in the 90s. We said, it's UGA, it's Georgia Tech. Winning that game, losing that game. What's that night like in those two scenarios?
Say that again. I lost you there for a second.
So the Georgia Tech UGA game back in the 90s.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. What's it like on the night that you lose one of those? What's it like on the night you win one of those?
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. Let me go with the lose first. So I remember in I think it was 96, we lost to them at Georgia. It was kind of a brutal game. It was a low-scoring game, and I remember, like, after that game in the locker room, I was a GA, so I didn't know anything. But Coach O'Leary was not happy. And so you all thought, like, after that game, you thought in the locker room, you thought you were losing your job, like, the very next day. But when you won those games, we won 3 in a row, right? In some of the most iconic games in that rivalry, we won 3 in a row, and those times were, you go up to Frankie's and the staff and all that, and it was just unbelievable memories. I know. Obviously, a lot of us are still close. Gotzi, Dougie Marone, John Anselmo. A lot of us are still close, and those are the games we definitely reminisce about.
If you don't know, Frankie's Taco Mac is there now in the Prado. It was a prominent sports bar in town. Yeah, unfortunately.
Times have changed. But you know how they changed? You could go get a drink with a GA or an assistant, and nobody cared, and nobody had a phone out. Nobody was taking pictures, and it was.
That's right.
We say this all the time, that some of the greatest stories are going to die on the vine because people don't really have time, or they don't really choose to when it's not go to a bar and get a beer. I loved hearing Nick and I walked into George O'Leary's office one time when he just got this new equipment, this new computer. And he said, look at this. He couldn't believe that if he hit a couple of buttons, he could see every third down play.
He was so proud of it, he had to show it off to us.
It was the crate, like we were walking into NASA, into a mountain, and we were seeing the secret of the codes. But you don't get that anymore.
No, that's what, and those stats, you guys remember that too, like, and Brent, he's recreating it right now. They got a good football team, and he's doing a great job. But those staffs, like, you had George and Ralph, and you had some guys on those staffs that over the years there. I was there for 8 years, and that really formed me as a coach because of the guys that I coached, but also the guys that I coached with.
I've never asked you this, so I'm going to do it now. And if you know comment it, you know comment it. When everything happened with George at Notre Dame, should Georgia Tech have just hired him back immediately?
In retrospect.
That's a good question. I will say, I want to tell you, like, because I came back, you guys, I'm not sure if you remember this, but I worked for Chan for a year. So, and I love Chan Gailey. He was a great man, and he meant a lot to me. He kept me on that. He could have let me go, and he kept me. What happened to George at Notre Dame, to me, this is what I believe, is that, like, look, yeah, did George make a mistake? Yeah, he made a mistake. But, I mean, can we not, like, okay, hey, can we have him do a press conference and, hey, here's what I was thinking. Here's the mistake I made. I apologize. I don't know, like, in the end, if you look back now and all the different things that have happened over the years in different walks of life, like can he just keep the Notre Dame job?
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Well, nobody had enough invested in him at that point, and they panicked. I mean, that's what I always thought. But I thought, boy, maybe it was supposed to be, let's just get him back here at Georgia Tech. And whether it's the head coach or not or whatever, I don't know. I always thought that there was a way to, fix it. I don't know. It's always sat with me a little bit weird that I would have just said, hey, come back here. Just come back here.
Yeah, he was a great fit. He was a great fit at Georgia Tech. He would have been a great fit at Notre Dame. And I tell this to young coaches all the time. I mean, I learned so much from just the demands that George put on us as assistant coaches. He really, you really were the head coach of your position. And so, like, if your position was not playing well, you heard about it. We would do staff clinics. You'd have to get up on the board and you'd have to teach the staff, like, whatever subject George assigned to you. He really was the first guy that really taught me how to coach. He had such a way about him that our teams were very, very tough. We were tough teams, and a lot of what he taught me, I've taken with me in coaching, no doubt about it.
Do you agree that the word grinder, which used to be, oh, yeah, that guy's a grinder, and it was sort of said with that, he's not this and he's not that, he's just sort of a grinder. Can you explain what a grinder is and how you need grinders? I don't care what team, what sport. If you don't have guys who are different than everybody, they do work a little harder because they have to work a little bit harder. Can you just talk and maybe how that word is shifted to be the positive that I think it actually is?
Yeah, a grinder is somebody that absolutely is obsessed with football. That it really, outside of football, they don't have much of a life, right? So they're the ones that wake up at 4:30. They're in the office by 5, and they're working on film, on drawings, on breakdowns. Really 18 to 20 hours a day. And people on the outside would be like, what? Like that. I remember my oldest brother, who's the greatest guy in the world. He came when I was a coach in Houston. We were playing the Packers, and he came to the Green Bay game, and he kind of followed me around for a day. And that was just like the day before the game. He couldn't believe like how much work and how much, and he was in the energy business, and he couldn't believe how much work and regiment, that the schedule was so regimented. He was just shocked by that. And people don't understand that unless you're right in it, it's 18 to 20 hours a day, especially during the season. Especially it lightens up a little bit in the off season, but you're still grinding. And the grinders are the ones that are there, and they don't really have really much else to their life.
How about players, though, like the 2-star guy that everybody says, oh, he's only got 2 stars? Yeah, give me 10 of them, and we're going to be better off.
Yeah, I mean, some of the greatest grinders of all time that I've been around, I'll tell you right now, is the 2 guys, and one of them's the head coach there now, is Brent Key and then George Gotze. I mean, George Gotze, I don't even know if he had a star coming out of high school. And he'll go down as one of the best quarterbacks to ever play at Georgia Tech. Brent Key, I want to say that Brent, he might have been a walk-on that George gave a scholarship to pretty quickly, but he was a grinder. And then you think about the guys I was around at the Patriots and, Julian Edelman. There's no bigger grinder in the world than Julian Edelman. He grinded and worked very, very hard to get to where he got to. And those are the guys that they're nonstop. They're obsessed with being great, and, they're not going to let anybody stand in the way of it.
Do you see that now when you watch Tech? When you watch the tape of Tech, the grinder that is Brent Key, and maybe some of that old school stuff that you saw when you were at Tech?
Yeah, Haynes King. He's, they were able to get him from A&M, and he's turned that program around. I just think the guy, he's tough. He's competitive. He's got a massive heart. He wills the team to win. He wills them to win. And got a lot of respect for Haynes, and I think he's the ultimate grinder on that team.
Hey, Bill, real quick, before we let you go, you mentioned your son, Jack, and I know that every once in a while we'll have a quick text exchange. Can you talk about perspective? Because you talked about what goes on in your own life, your home life, and, you and your wife, this is not a yesterday thing. It's not a last week thing. It's not a 5 years ago thing.
Yeah, so thanks, Chris. Jack's 23 years old. He was kind of dealt a bad hand in life. He was born with a brain malformation, which is called lissencephaly, and requires 24/7 care. And mostly it's Colleen, my wife. We have some unbelievable nurses that help us. My in-laws help us out quite a bit, Donnie and Claire. But yeah, it does. It gives you perspective, right? Here's a guy, Jack, who loves his youngest brother. He loves his mom. I'm the one that can make him laugh, which pisses off his mother, but I can make him laugh. So he loves his family, And in the end, he's a guy that depends on us for everything. But we've learned a lot from him. We've learned way more from him than he'll ever be able to teach. That we'll ever be able to teach him. You know what I mean? So. It's just, it gives you perspective every single day.
So let's end on a lighter note. I'm looking at your Wikipedia page, and when you took the Penn State job in 2012, there's a picture of you, and you look like a Marvel comic villain. Have you seen that picture?
No.
You look like you're ready to take over the world.
What's the deal with Wikipedia where somebody can just go in there and type whatever they want about you? That's the thing about Wikipedia that's nuts. I don't know.
You have laser focus in this picture.
Hey, I'll ask you one. How much better is the food up around Boston College? I don't want to mention Penn State, but some of the other places you've been. I would imagine not only is this sort of home, but meal-wise, you must be taken care of.
Oh, the food around Chestnut Hill, you got obviously the North End, which you guys like the Italian food up here is second to none. And then, there's some unbelievable Mexican places. There's obviously the seafood, unbelievable seafood places. Cape Cod's about 85 miles away. The food up here is outstanding.
Well, Bill, we know that it's been a challenge. Continue to grind, as we use that word again. We always appreciate you coming on, and hopefully we can catch up soon.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me. Appreciate
All right, Bill.